Welcome to another discussion with Claudia and Ulrike about team coaching. Imagine you have a brand new engagement that you're contemplating. What are the different options that you have on the table? Is team coaching always the right answer, or are there other things that would potentially help your team along? Let's consider it. Okay, Ulrike, what are the different options that we might have available to us when we are introduced to a new team? Maybe we had a first talk with a HR person or a team leader. How would you go about determining that? What are the options and how would you go about determining that?
Well, it all depends what I'm going to talk about with them. So what do they bring to the table? And interesting enough is most of the time they come with ideas first. So they say, well, actually, we need a team building. Well, actually, we need a whatever, facilitation, moderation. And if I then go into depth and try to understand what exactly it is they need, what are they looking for, what are the basic information, how many people, what's the matter, what should be reached, then very often I come across my question, think, is it really team building I would be doing here if I would be in the person's seat, like the HR person? Would I really recommend team building? And also to find out whether it's, well, do you have the same understanding what team building is than me? Perhaps I have a completely different experience and picture. And for me, it's a team building, and for you, it's a team facilitation, for example. I don't know. So how do you go with it?
Yeah, I think that that's actually a very big point. I had a discussion with team coaches earlier this week, and that was exactly one of the issues that I think came up, is that we had vastly different expectations about what team building would be. And frankly, if you look at the team building landscape, there are a lot of variants to it. For instance, you might take a team building that is like just these survivalist games, or you have to go on like big structures with ropes and things like that. That's team building. But it's kind of a facilitated activity. It's kind of like facilitation. Other team building, and I'm actually offering one with a Cocoach here in Luxembourg, that team building is much more involved and it's more coachy in flavor. Because even though it's a one-day workshop kind of setting, the team is trying to come together to think about purpose and mission and vision and, where do we want to go, things like that. So there's much, much more work involved from them, which part of that might be facilitation still, because you do kind of a very process aligned activity, but sometimes you step completely away from it, and you as the moderator for that event, you really put on your coaching hat, and it becomes really this co-creative kind of conversation that you have with the team, and that the team really figures things out. So with team building, I think it's very important to define the word in terms of what is your potential client thinking, what it means, and what are you thinking that it means. And then, I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do. I'm just like, let's make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So we already touched here now on actually facilitation. Facilitation, I think I would call about there is a process in place. There is a, something you want to go through that is quite structured, and the facilitator guides you through it. However, the team in this case would already do quite a bit of work. And a lot of this facilitation, we also know it was like boards full of post-its and things like that. That's facilitation very often. Facilitators are very highly trained people that that know how to build this engagement. Right. We is that how you see facilitation? How would you define it in your words, Ulrike?
I think you made the point well, quite close to my own, so there's really no need to go ahead with that. It's,
okay, perfect. Would you maybe introduce team building for those that what would be the goal very often of a team building exercise?
It depends really. It could be that, well, it's really a one-off. It's nothing which is going to have several entities over a time. It mostly is something for a day or for 2 days or for an hour sometimes with a certain purpose. So the team has a chance to have something together and that they have the feeling that they're together doing something nicely with their colleagues, to have very often something off their work, to have relationship building, not so much to work on different tasks or strategy or whatever. So it's most of the time really to have some relationship building, really to overcome some obstacles, but don't talk about the obstacles. Just have something, like you said, with ropes and whatever sometimes, or something fun, to have a city run or anything else, something together which is so far off your own experience in work that you have the chance to learn how the colleagues are behaving in a different situation, and quite nicely, nearly privately, but not too private. So nobody really talks about his family if they don't want to, but they have the chance to share as much as they want. It could be work related, but there's no certain, we need to reach this. It's very, very open.
Yeah.
Is this the same for you?
Well, it depends. The word that I most strongly connect with team building is connection. That's actually it. You try to build this connection, and sometimes it's already through what we often see is that there's certain fun things, of course, but sometimes there's also already certain challenges, not challenges that mirror the challenges you have at work, but challenges that are like survivalist games. We know them, right? There might be team members that might be weaker or less athletic, and then the connection is by the whole team, making it possible for the whole team to move on and builds that connection and that support. And those same people that might not have done well in that area might be the supportive ones in another kind of challenge down the road. So people become aware that it levels out, and that nevertheless together we are stronger than each separately. So for me, it's very much about connection. The lines get blurred sometimes in terms of sometimes it gets we nevertheless go into who are we as a team, what's our vision, what's our message, what's really at the core of who we are and our values and things like that. And then the team building can blur into facilitation. It really can, but that's okay, as long as the team and the team lead have this transparency going into the experience, that's what's trying to be achieved.
I offer something for a team. There's the team aspect. What does the team need? What do they want to achieve? And what is the right format in order to achieve that? And the second aspect is me. Where am I at my best? What is my capability? What am I willing to do? And the classical team building, I found that if I mix it, it's very, very difficult. Why is this the case? Because we start as a team building. People are full of fun, challenges and everything. And then out of a sudden, the elephant comes, and then work comes into the team building thing. And for me, and I'm just talking about me, I found it very, very difficult to distinguish between the different roles. So I decided, if I do a combination of team building and facilitation plus coaching in brackets behind that, I always have a second person with me, and he or she is doing team building. And I am only jumping in if the elephant comes. And if there is no elephant, there is no Ulrike, because it's not my strength to facilitate challenge games and everything. I did that as a co-coach. That's a long time ago, actually. And I found it nice, but I didn't feel well with it for whatever reason. And later I found out, if I'm quite clear about my role, which is strategy, finding out where the behavior sits in a team, in the working environment, conflicts in the working environments, everything, and then normally start as facilitator, and then out of a sudden move into the coaching thing. Because if I start facilitating, I have the structure, blah, 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 and then you have the structure on the wall, but now you need to start working with it. And this is normally always a case where the switch is between the facilitation, moderation, and starting to coach step by step. You have a completely different thing. And this team building thing, if this is still in the room, disturbs my concentration, because the next challenge is already scheduled. You know what I mean? So there are two different approaches. So I'm quite happy to join a team building meeting and make my notes, what I hear, what I listen to, but I wouldn't mix it, not if I'm the responsible person for the process, because I don't have the feeling it is good for the customer, because I'm not, well, I can't perform to my best for the team for whatever reason. And this is just me. And I learned about certain coaches who have this more team building thing with them and less of a coaching. So possibly if you have such an event, you should perhaps bring another co-coach with you who definitely is not the same.
Yeah, and
what do you think?
Thank you absolutely for clarifying that. That is when we forgot to mention our assumptions, right? Because I would never do this without a proper co-coach, right? Because for me as well, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't even consider it to do something like this without a co-coach. And I really think that this diversity of intent is very important. This is the go-to person for this for today, and this is the go-to person for that for today. And you know, so that the just the fact that that coach shows up, you know, sets the stage for what's happening, versus this person showing up and sets the stage for what's happening. And I would just, as a coach, I would prefer not to lose an opportunity if something that yet you have been after pops up. I would not like to lose that opportunity, because sometimes you lose it if you don't grab it, especially because a lot of these team building things so on are offsite. You are in a different framework, you're in a different kind of environment, because it's very dangerous in that moment to say, oh, here's an elephant, let's talk about it Monday morning in the meeting room. It's right, it's going to go poof and be gone by Monday morning. So I think that nevertheless, it would be good to keep a little bit of this time buffer and a little bit of this flexibility to address things as they come up. But yeah, absolutely. I think that it's super important to do to have co-coaches. And maybe if it, I mean, if it were an outdoorsy thing and stuff like that, I would definitely work with somebody who knows the outdoorsy stuff, right? And so it's yeah, good point, Ulrike. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I think it's always good to know your limits as a coach and as a person, and where you are good and what you can do in a nice way for people. So, well, these are my stakeholders and I would like to serve them best. And I know from myself that I can't do that to my full extent. And I always need clarification. For example, I will be part of a team building, and it's definitely a building. They plan fun stuff all the way through. Two teams are merging, and in the middle of this, there should be some get to know each other, strategic, whatever overlapping thing. So I made quite clear I'm the overlapping thing. So I will facilitate that, get to know each other, do, okay, where's the overlapping and what are the next action points, and perhaps identifying first elephants in the room. And then I'm out again. Because people connect me with strategy, get to know each other, action point. This is work. If they want to have fun, I'm not the fun person then, because they connect me with the workshop we had in the morning. So I learned from historical experience not to mix. They won't be part of the fun part. So they don't have this work thing in the middle because they see me. I came across that because I watched the process and I just thought, this is a bit weird. People can't distinguish, and the preparation time which we have at the moment is even very difficult because people invite me to their team building planning, and I always say, wait a minute, it's me, I'm just the overlapping strategic guy or girl. And you do the rest. So I'm not responsible for the hotel outside the strategic workshop. If we have the workshop, I need a facilitation room for 60 people and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't want to live in this hotel because it's not nice, it's just a nice facilitation area, go have your night somewhere else. But for the meeting thing, I have this, and people have difficulties not to mix this all the time. They always blame me for having this not so nice hotel because of the facilitation thing. And I always say, well, sorry, but you don't have to spend the night there. Yeah, yes, you're right. So it's a nice way, but I just thought, oh, how important it is to make quite clear, this is me, work, and I do everything for your team. And the rest is really facilitation. For me, it's easier for the success of the part I'm responsible with to have it delivered by the team. And therefore, I'm a bit reluctant with team building, fun stuff. Yeah.
Well, you play to your strengths, and I think it's very important to set the right person image, like, you know, the right intent, the right association with a person. This now is an example related to that that's completely away from coaching now. But I was back in the day, I was a consulting engineer. And I went into companies and I worked with the engineers. And I even talked to project leads and team leads and stuff like that. But it was always engineering talk, right? Methodology, sometimes like larger overarching thing, but I was a techie, okay? I was then invited by my company to move into sales. And I started heading a sales team. I was starting to head a sales team of engineers, right? And I had to step back from the engineering talk. I could still have done it. Obviously, I did it like 2 months ago, right? I could code with the best of them and, you know, do all those kind of things, but it was not my role anymore. And even though it comes across, competence is not easily hidden, but it comes across that I was a techie ultimately, but now I was talking to team leads, to directors, to VP of finance, to VP of sales, CEOs and stuff like that. It was a shift. And I did not do the job of my engineers anymore, just as they would not do my job and talk, to the people I was supposed to talk to. So then I was the salesperson, right? And they were the engineers. And so I had to really leave that persona behind. And it was very conscious that I had to leave that persona behind. And it was so hard sometimes. It was so hard sometimes. I would give me that keyboard, let me do that,
Yeah, not my role anymore.
Right. But and I think that it's very important that you keep your persona straight, what you want to convey, and what because when you come into the room, we had talked about this before, your authority comes with you, and this is colored by what you do during each meeting and what you promise and what you focus on. So very good. Yeah. So perfect. So we have team building, we have team facilitation, and then of course we have team coaching, right? Which is an option to engage with a client, from the get-go. I think that sometimes also even a one-on-one with a team lead might be a good first step, right? If you have, for instance, a new team leader, that is learning the ropes with this particular team, or even just starting out in a leadership role, sometimes maybe even just a one-on-one thing could predate or precede a team coaching engagement. What's your experience with that?
I never start with a team. I always start with one-to-ones. Either it's a HR person, which is a one-on-one itself, but I always ask to meet the team leader first, or the person who is perhaps a potential candidate. So if perhaps someone out of a team comes to me, it's not a leader, could be, but not necessarily, then I always start the proposal with, let's have some hours just us, and I learn about you, how you are, what your things are, and then I ask to be introduced to the team, and also do the contracting always team plus individual, because I learned, I talk, for example, with the team leader, I do the team, and in the team, especially when, team plus team leader, and then team extra without team leader, and then offer for each team member, if you want, give me a shout. And we do another coaching session or individual session, because people sometimes don't like to have this called coaching. So I just say, well, let's have an individual chat. And it always ends up, it's a coaching then, but they are not aware of that, which is fine for most of them. So I have the whole picture, people in the room without the leader, with the leader, and then outside, just them. And this gives me a picture. And sometimes I'm in the room and the people are talking. This is another picture, because then I'm not the guiding person, it's just the team and I can observe them. So I don't have a 360 degrees, but perhaps I have a 270. And the rest still is open. But I would like, from a systemic approach, to have as much information as possible. And I know for myself that I'm a different person today with you than I was with my learning group, with my coach group, with my whatever. I always have a different approach, a different role, what I bring to the table. There are overlappings, but there are also certain parts. And if I do coaching before I assign a whole contract, I try to be aware of those overlapping things, but also about the individual stuff. And I have sometimes a pretty good picture of what could be. And in the coaching, I have then very often people say, why do you know this? How do you come across this? Yeah, because I had you from a different perspective and I had a certain feeling this could be the case. So please tell me if I'm close to you or whether this is quite far away. So for me, team coaching itself, the headline is really a headline, and below of this is a whole package of different meetings with different people in different scenarios. And this is, for me, this is team coaching, because the individual coaching, where I come from originally some years ago, I always came from this, I would do coaching with you. You would tell me, I want to do this, I have a plan, and now this is great, blah, blah. And then you go outside our meeting room and you have changed your mind, but obviously your environment isn't aware of that. And then it's very difficult for you to get your thing done. But if you do it with your team together and everyone is aware about everyone and have this psychological safety, which we've been discussing before, then you have the chance to really have your plan and go into it, into the reality, and try with your plan. And you know about plans, they're good to do, but not a plan is good, but to do them is kind of difficult because change will occur. And by doing this team coaching approach, the success of the one-to-one coaching is much bigger. For us as a team coach, it's more exhausting because you have to talk many times and it's really chaotic. But I think individual coaching is just for a very short thing, very focused. But if you really want to go with change of the future, then you need to have the whole thing. And this is just team coaching. I forgot about the stakeholders. They are invited into the room if I am allowed to do so. So now you have my picture. How do you fit into that?
I really think so too. There are very many different constellations, right? And each has their own richness and each has their own challenges. And so really getting the ideas of what's happening with this person being part of that system, this system being integrated into that one, and so on. The more we understand it, and more we allow the team and the members to understand it, the better it becomes. I have actually, considered meetings where I was just the observer. I would, as a team coach, I said, I'm a fly on the wall, just do like I'm not here at all. And, it can be a little bit of a challenge for the team to forget that I'm there. But after a while, they get into their work and their explorations and their discussions, and they do forget that I'm there because I'm literally in the corner somewhere. But even that can give you so much information about team dynamic and communication and things like that. So I really think that each part like that has their bonus. Also, sometimes I think the one-on-ones that we have with individual members really fall under like solution-focused coaching. Lösungsorientiertes coaching in German, which is really small things to the point. Let's get it done in a session or two. If there was really there, it's not always this big elaborate, I need to work on my mindset kind of level of coaching, right? So we have to also be open to meet where they are and what they need at that moment, right? And just giving giving them the option to have these discussions or these transformations that they desire on a one-on-one level. I think team leads is a very special case. They have, because they are team leads. So, leadership is such a hugely faceted thing. And, to figure out for them what kind of leader to be in what kind of situation. And sometimes, you also need to go outside of your own favorite leadership style because the team needs that at that moment. So there's a lot of learning and giving themselves permission and so on that happens. Yeah. Systems of systems, it's a very complex thing, and that's, I think, why these engagements can be so complex and long and but ultimately so enriching, because from my perspective, the coach and the team coach at any level of this, from the individual to the team without the leader, to the team with the leader, to the team leader by themselves, and so on, the job ultimately is to have discussions that wouldn't happen if the team leader wasn't there. Right? You uncover things, and you therefore become a catalyst for discussion and clarity. And once that is there, this collective awareness, then you're already well on your way. Yeah. So wow. There's a lot involved, that's for sure.
Let me add one thing. When you talked about the fly and you're sitting there on the wall, not being seen, and it takes a while until people forget about this little fly, I think there always comes a moment when the fly needs to say, hello, here I am again, I'm getting on your nerves, and flying around through the room, making them aware again, hello, I'm asking some questions, I'm seeing stuff. And if they're getting used to this kind of, there's a fly or whatever insect in the room, sitting on the wall, and being ready to come into the room and into the discussion and make them aware what exactly is just happening, and then fly away again and let them learn how to deal with this interaction. This sometimes is, you can't describe it to the client, this is going to happen. It needs to happen. You can't, well, if I'm asked by a client what exactly it means, team coaching, then it's not easy to explain it, what exactly is going to happen. Yeah. And to make them aware, like I told you before, what is the difference between consultancy, interim manager, and team coaching? Yeah, team coaching, the responsibility really lies within the team. And whenever they try to blame me for whatever they want to blame me, yeah, well, actually, what's the point in blaming me? Why do you have the idea to put this on me? Why is this the case? And what hinders you to put this into your table instead of mine? Which is not very comfortable for me, but this is the way it is, because as a consultant, if they put the problem onto my desk, I'm the consultant, I know how to deal with it, I structure the problem, and then you have a solution. Yes. Question is whether this solution will work for you. Most often this is not the case. So I have my little structured Word document, perhaps 100 pages long, looks very nicely formatted, but it's not value. There's no value in reality. And the coaching thing is much more not document, it's more blah, blah, questions, talkings, nothing you really can put on paper. It's always sitting in where exactly is it sitting. And this makes it so difficult to explain to people who haven't done it before. Yeah, people working with me for a long time, they know, yeah, she comes in and asks a lot of questions, and then we somehow react to it. That's team coaching. And they're right. But explain the same to a new customer, yeah, they are right in the minute I have them. And once I leave the room, it's not with them because they didn't experience it. So I always ask them for a training session, not a training session, a trial session. Test me how we would work together. Don't do it big contracts. Start with whatever 2 to 4 hours twice a management meeting or something like that, and see whether this style of work fits to your own needs. Because if you prefer to have a consultant with a thick, big paper, I can do that, but then it's a different contract and it's top down because I'm the consulting doing it to you, customer. Team coach is more eye level, is more, hello, here's another person, I care for you and your problem. And I try to find a way to make you able to go to the meta even and see where do you need to go, and then jump into it again. And I think that's the biggest issue, really, to explain it. How do you explain it?
Well, it depends, right? It depends with the preconceptions that the people that I'm talking to have, the ideas that they have about what team coaching is or is not, and then you kind of get it from there. But it is something that is easier shown than talked about. I really think so, and yeah, it's. Even in one-on-one coaching, I still sometimes have trouble really finding the right words for a particular person to explain what it is. Right? And but it is because very often the KPIs are intangible. Sometimes, I mean, the immediate ones are very often intangible. How do you measure increased well-being and motivation and focusedness and vision and things like that in the team? You're going to know it in your numbers and in your productivity 6 months and a year down the road, but how do you walk out of the meeting pointing to particular KPIs that are happening? But it is this transformation, this collective mindset that is going to drive innovation, that is going to facilitate collaboration and so on. So that is something that sometimes it's struggling. I mean, we talk in one-on-one coaching that more people might be familiar with, was like, we help people reach their potential. I know what it is. You know what it is. We have very clear ideas of what it is, right? But it's challenging to really put your finger on it. So yeah, if you ever figure it out, let me know.
Yeah, well, I don't think I will. I will talk a lot about it, but I thought there will be a really concrete sentence, and that's it. I just think someone said, I don't know how, but I remembered well. If people think they don't need me, they even hate me, they hate me being in the room, this is the case when they should have me. And if they think I should be there and everything is nicely, then I would say it's time to go. Yeah, so as long as it's feeling not so nice and they can't deal with it really nicely, and what means nicely, productive, effectively for the stakeholders, and at the same time well-being in the room, even if there's conflict. This doesn't feel nice, and I'm not being felt nicely because my questions are uncomfortable for them. And if these questions start to feel comfortable, I ask myself, well, why is this the case? If this is comfortable, then obviously you can do it on your own. Because they obviously expect me to have those questions, and this is the time for me to say goodbye. And then we can meet every now and then and find out how things are. But they understood then what it means to work in a coaching style, really, because they are not surprised any longer by my questions and my style. It's their style. It's not the same as mine. They developed their own style, but I fit in very nicely, and therefore they don't need me anymore.
So true. And we mentioned before this idea of with the team coach present, the team has conversations that otherwise it wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And those conversations are inherently the uncomfortable ones, because they're about the elephants in the rooms, about the taboos, about the friction, about the invisible conflict, but that grates on everybody's nerves, about unreasonable expectations and unshared visions and things like that. It's, and that's the things that then you talk about, because the team, in order to become a value contributing team, needs to have those discussions. So, and then you come in as a team coach and say, oh, now we're going to talk about things like that again. Oh goodness, now we have to think again and be exposed to this discomfort. But that's how change happens. Change is inherently uncomfortable.
You need to be confronted, and not otherwise you're too weak and you go around. I mean, we are all very good at going around, right? I have a lot of little men sitting at my shoulder. Don't do it now, do something else. For example, if you clean your windows, then I find 1,000 things I can do before I start cleaning my windows. And cleaning the window is the same as facing the problems which comes because of change of the environment, of the stakeholders' needs or whatever. So, and I'm there to make them aware, face them instead of moving around. And later the feeling of feeling uncomfortable is a relaxed situation, because actually it's nice finally to go through the bull's eye and say, well, finally we are doing something about it instead of arguing all the time. I am arguing right now with some people for half a year now, and I'm just thinking, my goodness, I'm fed up with it. Just get it done, for heaven's sake, stop arguing. But yeah, let's see how it goes. It's a messiness.
Because what some do not realize, that even if change is for the better, change is still uncomfortable. Even if you all want this great thing that is this hugely wonderful positive outcome, and you all agree that you want to get there, the path to getting there is still uncomfortable, because it is change. It's just part of the equation. And so because it's change, and it's uncomfortable, then all of a sudden, all these conflicts and frictions and procrastination and all these things start popping up. Even though it's very clear where you want to go, you all agree it's going to be a happy, beautiful, sunny outcome, right? But it's still a rough road to get there, because it's a road not traveled before. So, and then also to come in and set these expectations. Sometimes I just say, you know what? It is uncomfortable because it's change. Just live with it. Just live with it, right? And it's very, very interesting. So, wow, this is really great. Great exploration. Thank you, Ulrike. Do you have anything else to add, or do you think this is a good point to wrap?
To be honest, I have tons of things to add, as always, when I talk to you, but I think we better stop here right now, because I think we already did a longer path than we wanted to go, but well, it all fitted in, and it makes me aware how connected everything is. You can't discuss whatever coaching API or whatever it's called just by itself. It's not one page in my brain. Actually it is, but it has many connections. Like you always say, it's a mind map, and I think team coaching is a mind map itself, and we just need to follow. So I think it's an excellent point to stop, otherwise we have this for energy.
Let's keep some content for future videos. I'm sure we're going to have many more. I want to invite anybody who has any questions regarding this content, to drop us something in the comments, or head over to topcoachluxembourg.lu/YouTube and pose your questions, and let us know if you want to be on the show. Fabulous. Thank you, Ulrike. It was a true pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.